outpouring of love. We saw it all. We read all the letters. I speak for the family when I say this, is that we are so grateful for that. And it meant so much.
3 weeks ago, a groundskeeper at a small cemetery outside Birmingham posted what he thought was just another photo on social media. He had no idea he was about to blow apart everything the world thought they knew about how the Prince of Darkness wanted to spend eternity. The photo shows a simple granite stone, nothing fancy, nothing screaming, rock legend rests here. In fact, if you walked past it, you'd probably think it belonged to someone's grandfather who worked at the local factory his whole life, because that's exactly what Ozzy Osborne wanted. But here's where it gets absolutely shocking. The name on that headstone, it doesn't say Ozzy Osborne, Prince of Darkness. It doesn't say John Michael Osborne, rock legend. It says something that made Sharon cry when she first saw it carved in stone, and it's something that has his own children questioning whether they ever really knew their father at all. The headstone reads, "John from Birmingham, he tried his best." That's it, no dates, no accomplishments, no mention of Black Sabbath or solo career, or the millions of records sold. Just 6 words that completely rewrite everything we thought we knew about what mattered to Ozzy in his final years. When these photos started circulating, fans went absolutely insane. The rock community couldn't believe it. Here's a man who spent 50 years being larger than life, who built an empire on being outrageous and unforgettable, and his final resting place looks like it could belong to anyone. People started calling it fake, demanding proof, accusing Sharon of cheapening his legacy. But then more photos emerged. Photos that weren't supposed to exist, taken by family members during private moments. And that's when everyone realized this wasn't some mistake or cost-cutting measure. This was exactly what Ozzy wanted, planned down to every detail, fought for against everyone who tried to talk him out of it. See, what nobody knew until now is that Ozzy had been planning this for 7 years. 7 years of secret meetings with Sharon, private conversations that she's never shared with anyone, not even their children. He didn't just wake up one day and decide he wanted a humble grave. This was a carefully orchestrated final statement that goes deeper than anyone imagined. The leaked photos show something else that's been driving the internet crazy. Around that simple stone, there are dozens of small items left by visitors, but they're not what you'd expect at a rock star's grave. No guitar picks, no Black Sabbath memorabilia, no bottles of whiskey. Instead, there are handwritten notes from people saying, "Thank you for showing me it's okay to be different." There are drawings from kids who feel like outsiders. There are sobriety chips left by people who found strength in Ozzy's battles with addiction. One photo shows a note that reads, "My son has autism and gets bullied at school. When he heard your music and learned your story, he stopped being ashamed of being different. Thank you for saving my boy." It's signed by a mother from Manchester, and according to people who have been tracking these visits, notes like this show up almost daily. But here's what really sent shockwaves through the Osborne family. In one of the leaked photos, you can see Sharon kneeling beside that simple stone, and she's talking to it like Ozzy's still there listening. Someone with a long-range camera caught her during what was supposed to be a completely private moment, and you can read her lips saying something that explains everything about why she fought so hard to honor his wishes. She's saying, "I kept my promise, John. I kept every single one." That word, John, is key to understanding everything. Because what these photos prove is that Sharon didn't just honor Ozzy's final wishes about his burial. She honored his deepest desire to finally be remembered not as the character he created, but as the man he always was underneath all the makeup and madness. The family sources who leaked these photos are saying Sharon had to battle everyone to make this happen. The record label wanted a massive public mausoleum that fans could visit and buy merchandise at. His children wanted something befitting a rock legend, something that would cement his place in music history forever. The city of Birmingham offered to build a monument. Hell, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame wanted to create an entire Ozzy Osbourne wing. But Sharon said no to every single offer, no matter how much money was involved, no matter how much pressure she faced. Because 7 years ago, when Ozzy first started getting sick, he made her promise something that she's never told anyone until now. He made her swear that when he died, she would bury John from Birmingham, not Ozzy Osbourne. He wanted to rest as the scared kid who left Birmingham with nothing but a dream and a voice, not as the icon who conquered the world. He wanted people to visit his grave and remember that he was human first, legend second. And according to these leaked photos, That's exactly what's happening. But what Sharon didn't expect is how keeping this promise would tear his family apart and start a war that's still raging behind closed doors. Because it turns out, Ozzy's final wishes weren't just about how he wanted to be buried. They were about how he wanted to be remembered, how he wanted his money spent, and who he wanted to control his legacy. And not everyone in the Osborne family agrees with the choices Sharon made. The explosion happened 3 days after Ozzy's funeral, when Sharon finally sat down with Jack, Kelly, and Amy to read them their father's full final wishes. What started as a family meeting in Sharon's living room turned into the biggest fight in Osborne family history, and according to sources close to the family, they're still not speaking to each other. Here's what nobody knew. Ozzy's humble burial was just the beginning. His will contained instructions that went way beyond where to put his body. He had specific demands about his music catalog, his image rights, his money, and most shocking of all, how he wanted the family to behave after he was gone.
I knew something bad had happened, so I immediately, I don't know, just pain, just sadness and pain, and this part of you that's like, I have to get there right now.
Jack Osborne was the first to explode. When Sharon read the part about the simple headstone and no public monument, he completely lost it. "Are you kidding me?" he shouted at his mother. "Dad spent 50 years building a legend and you're going to bury him like some nobody? This is insane, Mom. This isn't what he would want." But Sharon had receipts. She pulled out handwritten letters from Ozzy voice recordings on her phone, even video messages he'd made specifically for this moment. In one recording that's been described by people who heard it, Ozzy's voice is weak but determined. "Jack, if you're hearing this, it means your mother kept her word. I know you think I've lost my mind, but I need you to trust that your old man knows what he's doing one last time." Kelly's reaction was even worse. She accused Sharon of manipulating a sick man, of taking advantage of Ozzy's deteriorating mental state to push her own agenda. "This isn't grief talking, Mom," Kelly reportedly screamed. "This is you trying to control Dad even after he's dead. He was the Prince of Darkness, not some humble nobody from Birmingham." That's when Sharon played Kelly's personal message from Ozzy. In it, he apparently addresses her by her childhood nickname and says, "Princess, I know you want your daddy to be remembered as larger than life. But the truth is, the only life that mattered was the one I lived with you kids and your mum. The rest was just a show."
It's been strange because I was the first person that actually told her, "Something is wrong with you, you're sick, go to a doctor." And we fought for 2 years.
Amy, who had stayed out of the public eye for years, sided with Sharon, but for reasons that made everyone even more angry. She revealed that Ozzy had been talking to her privately about these plans for over a year before he died. He'd specifically asked her not to tell Jack or Kelly because he knew they'd try to talk him out of it. "Dad was tired," Amy told her siblings. "He was tired of being a character instead of a person. He wanted to be remembered as someone who struggled and survived, not as some untouchable rock god." But the real nuclear bomb dropped when Sharon revealed Ozzy's financial instructions. He didn't just want a humble burial. He wanted most of his estate to go toward helping struggling musicians and their families, not toward building monuments to his own legacy. The Ozzy Osbourne Foundation wasn't just getting some token donation. It was getting almost everything.
On a rough go, and I think people saw that at the show, but no one expected it to happen as quick.
Jack went ballistic. "So we get nothing? 50 years of Dad building this empire, and strangers get it instead of his own children." That's when Sharon had to deliver the cruelest part of Ozzy's final message. He'd left substantial trust funds for each of his children, but only if they agreed to support his final wishes without fighting Sharon about them. If they contested the will or tried to change his burial plans, they'd lose everything except a small annual stipend. "He knew you'd fight me on this," Sharon told them through tears. "He said if you really understood what mattered to him, you'd support what made him happy, not what you think looks good to the outside world." Kelly accused Sharon of poisoning Ozzy against his own children. Jack threatened to contest the entire will in court. Amy begged everyone to calm down, but the damage was done. The meeting ended with Jack storming out, Kelly crying hysterically, and Sharon sitting alone wondering if she'd just destroyed her family to honor her husband's wishes. Industry insiders began choosing sides, with some supporting the children's fight for a proper rock legend legacy, and others defending Sharon's right to honor her husband's actual wishes. The most heartbreaking part came when Sharon found out that Jack and Kelly had been secretly meeting with record executives about posthumous Ozzy projects that would completely go against everything he'd specifically forbidden in his will. They were planning tribute concerts, merchandise deals, even a biographical movie. Everything Ozzy had explicitly said he didn't want. "They think I'm the enemy," Sharon confided to a close friend. "But I'm the only one who actually listened to what their father wanted. I'm the only one who loved John from Birmingham more than I loved Ozzy Osborne." The family remains fractured, with lawyers now involved and a court battle looming. But what none of them expected was how the public would react when the full story finally came out. What Sharon hasn't told anyone until now is the real story behind those final wishes. It wasn't about being humble or making a statement to the world. It was about healing a wound that had been bleeding in Ozzy's soul for over 50 years. A wound that Sharon watched tear him apart every single day of their marriage. The conversation that changed everything happened on a Tuesday night in February, 2 years before Ozzy died. He just watched a documentary about his early life in Birmingham, and Sharon found him crying in their bedroom at 2 in the morning. Not the kind of crying you do when you're sad about something, the deep, broken sobbing of a man who'd been carrying pain for decades. "I never got to say goodbye to him," Ozzy told Sharon that night. "I never got to tell him I made something of myself." He wasn't talking about a fan or a fellow musician.
I knew something bad had happened, so I immediately, I don't know, just pain, just sadness and pain, and this part of you that's like, I have to get there right now.
He was talking about his father, Jack Osborne Sr., who died when Ozzy was just starting to find success with Black Sabbath. Jack Sr. was a factory worker who spent his whole life struggling to feed his family, who never lived to see his son become anything more than the troubled kid from Osborne who couldn't hold down a job. That night, Ozzy told Sharon something he'd never shared with anyone, not even in his autobiography. His father's dying words weren't, "I love you," or "I'm proud of you." They were, "Try to make something of yourself, John. Don't end up like me." For 50 years, Ozzy had been trying to prove to a dead man that he'd made something of himself. Every album, every concert, every outrageous headline, it was all Ozzy screaming into the void. "Look, Dad! Look what John from Birmingham became." But success never filled that hole. Fame never answered that question. No matter how many stadiums he sold out or how many records he broke, Ozzy still felt like that scared kid who disappointed his father by dropping out of school and getting in trouble with the law. The saddest part, Sharon revealed to a close friend, is that Jack Sr. would have been proud of him just for surviving. He wouldn't have cared about the fame or the money. He just wanted his son to be okay. That February night was when Ozzy first mentioned wanting to be buried as John from Birmingham. Not as a rejection of his success, but as a way of finally coming home to the person his father knew and loved before the world got hold of him. But the deeper truth came out 6 months later, during another middle-of-the-night conversation that Sharon says changed her life forever. Ozzy had been having particularly bad nights, struggling with his declining health and the reality that his performing days were ending. That's when he told Sharon about the dream that had been haunting him for months. In the dream, he's walking through that same Birmingham cemetery where his father is buried, but he can't find the grave. He's searching desperately, calling out, "Dad, where are you? I made something of myself. I kept my promise." But there's no answer, just endless rows of headstones that all look the same. Then in the dream, he finally finds his father's grave, but when he kneels down beside it, the headstone changes. Instead of his father's name, it says, "John from Birmingham. He tried his best." And suddenly his father's voice comes through clear as day. "I was never disappointed in you, son. I was proud of you for trying." That dream broke something open in Ozzy that had been locked away for decades. He realized he'd spent his entire career trying to impress a man who was already proud of him just for being his son. The Prince of Darkness persona, the outrageous behavior, the need to be bigger and louder and more shocking than everyone else. It was all armor protecting a little boy who thought he wasn't good enough. "When he told me about that dream," Sharon said, "I finally understood why our marriage survived everything. Because I fell in love with John from Birmingham, not Ozzy Osbourne, and John was the one who loved me back." The humble headstone wasn't about rejecting his legacy. It was about Ozzy finally accepting that he was enough, just as he was, just as his father would have loved him. It was about laying down 50 years of trying to prove himself and finally resting as the man he'd always been underneath all the chaos. Sharon kept this promise because she understood something his children didn't yet grasp. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting someone be small, letting them be human, letting them finally come home to themselves. The photos of that simple grave aren't evidence of Sharon diminishing Ozzy's legacy. They're proof that she loved him enough to give him the peace he'd been searching for his entire life. 3 months after that explosive family meeting, something unexpected started happening at Ozzy's grave. The leaked photos were just the beginning. Now there are new images surfacing almost daily, and they're telling a story that nobody saw coming. A story about how keeping one promise changed everything. Sharon has been visiting that simple grave every single day since Ozzy died. Rain or shine, she's there at sunrise with a cup of coffee and the morning newspaper, reading to him like they used to do when he was alive. But what the new photos show is that she's not alone anymore. Jack Osborne was spotted there last Tuesday morning, not with lawyers or cameras or any agenda, just sitting quietly beside his mother for the first time since their fight began. According to witnesses, he didn't say much. He just sat there listening to Sharon read Ozzy the sports scores and weather forecast, the same routine she's maintained for 3 months. But here's what broke everyone's hearts. When Sharon finished reading and got up to leave, Jack stayed behind. Someone with a telephoto lens caught him kneeling beside that simple headstone, and you can clearly see him talking to it. Later, a groundskeeper found a handwritten note left at the grave that simply said, "I'm sorry I didn't understand, Dad. I get it now." Kelly showed up the next day. Then Amy. By the end of the week, all 3 children were taking turns visiting, and something beautiful started happening. They began leaving their own simple tributes, not rock star memorabilia but personal things. A drawing that Jack's daughter made for Grandpa. A photo of Kelly's dog that Ozzy loved. Amy left her first ever Grammy nomination letter, something she'd never shared with anyone in the family. The photos show something else that's been making people cry all over social media. Sharon has started bringing folding chairs, 4 of them. 1 for her, 3 for the children who might show up. She sets them out every morning, even on days when no one comes. It's her way of saying the door is always open, the family circle always has room. But the most powerful photo surfaced just last week, and it explains everything about why Sharon fought so hard for these wishes. It shows all 4 family members sitting in those chairs, and Sharon is holding a letter. According to sources who were there, it was another message from Ozzy, one that Sharon had been saving for when the family was ready to hear it together. In that letter, Ozzy apparently wrote, "If you're all sitting together reading this, it means Sharon kept her hardest promise. Not the one about my grave, the one about keeping our family together even when I'm not there to fix the fights anymore." That's when everyone realized that Ozzy's final wishes weren't just about how he wanted to be buried. They were about how he wanted his family to heal. He knew his children would fight Sharon about his unconventional choices. He knew there would be lawyers and arguments and hurt feelings. But he also knew that eventually, they'd have to come together at that simple grave and remember what actually mattered. The humble headstone was never about diminishing Ozzy's legacy. It was about creating a place where his family could be real with each other. No cameras, no pressure to perform, no expectations about being rock royalty. Just a family missing their father and husband, sitting together in folding chairs, talking to a simple stone that says he tried his best. The new photos show something even more beautiful. Other families have started bringing folding chairs to their own loved ones' graves. Fans are sharing stories about having honest conversations at cemetery visits for the first time in years. Ozzy's simple resting place has somehow become a symbol for choosing connection over performance, authenticity over image. Sharon's choice to honor those wishes despite the family war has created something Ozzy probably never expected, a new kind of legacy. Not built on shock value or outrageous behavior, but on the radical idea that being human is enough, that trying your best is enough, that love means accepting people as they really are. The court battle is over. Jack and Kelly have dropped their legal challenges. The family fortune will go where Ozzy wanted it to go. But more importantly, the family that almost broke apart over his final wishes has found their way back to each other by finally understanding what those wishes really meant. The photos of that simple grave prove something that all the platinum albums and sold-out stadiums never could. That the greatest rock star love story of all time wasn't about the Prince of Darkness and his manager. It was about John and Sharon, two people who loved each other enough to choose truth over image, healing over glory, family over fame. Do you think Sharon made the right choice honoring Ozzy's humble final wishes over his children's expectations? Share your thoughts in the comments about what you'd want your own family to remember about you. Hit subscribe. We're uncovering more shocking Osborne family revelations that prove love and loyalty run deeper than fame.